possibly you know that tune, East Acklam. That was the tune that was originally set to the text, God who made earth and heaven, which is ELW number 564. But this week's hymn of the week is ELW 679, For the Fruit of All Creation. Now let's go back to that 564, God who made earth and heaven. This was a case of a text not working with the tune. In fact, that tune was Our Hiding Us. So keep in mind that tune was... In fact, I know it so well I could play it by memory. It's in the hymnal more than a few times, actually, Our Hiding Us. So it was set to that. But here was the case where Fred Pratt Green, as we see, he was the author of the text For the Fruit of All Creation. He was asked to write a new text for East Acklam, because East Acklam was the tune that was put to God who made earth and heaven. And the reason for that was they didn't feel like the tune Our Hiding Us was working. Now that's an interesting story there, because if I were to play this on the chimes, I think you agree it's a pretty workable tune. Let's get a little softer pedal. Right? So it sounds like it's a really workable tune. Well, either way, God who made earth and heaven, or God who makes earth and heaven, just did not work for that. And I can see some of that, God who made earth and heaven, doesn't fit very well. So the idea was, let's ask Francis Jackson to compose something that would be a different tune for it. And why not, let's try a different tune. So they tried East Acklam, and the problem with East Acklam was it still wasn't working. So they decided to ask Fred Pratt Green to write a text that would now match maybe a harvest theme, since there was a lack of harvest hymns. And lo and behold, we get For the Fruit of All Creation. Now, For the Fruit of All Creation, in this case, for the fruits of this creation, the Methodist hymnal, some other texts, they changed the words just slightly, but it's the same idea. You can see even in this hymnal, Fred Pratt Green credited for the words and Francis Jackson for the music. So here's the interesting thing. So it really did end up the way I just played it at the beginning of the video here. But what tune do we have in 679? We have, and I'll play it for you again, this time with some softer pedal. Our Hiding Us. So it's interesting, all this work to change the tune around, but yet we're still going to go with the tune anyway. It's a very interesting history of hymnody here. And it's a traditional Welsh melody. If we didn't already know, it says Welsh traditional for 679. Our Hiding Us, meaning the live long night. And it was originally published for solo and harp variations by Edward Jones. And it has that very predictable, easy hymn format of AABA. So this is For the Fruit of All Creation with Our Hiding Us. Sorry, we're not going to be able to use East Acklam. That one did not make the hymnal with this text.
For the fruit of all creation,
this hymn ends up being, the tune ends up being a hymnal so many times, there's different ways I like to recreate it for congregational singing, and I just want to point out those ways really quickly. First of all, in verse 2, I take the reeds away when we begin to talk about God's will being done. Because in many ways, God works silently sometimes. We don't always see it, or maybe we perceive it that way, but God is always working, and God's will is still being fulfilled. So it's a really neat effect to do that. And of course, the Holy Spirit taking it up a full step gives that nice rise for the last verse. And to do the scales, the reason for that is because it was originally for harp. So I'm trying to recreate some of that harp feel of the Welsh tune of Our Heidi Nos. And other than that, the finish reminds us that God's thanksgiving is always is something that we just never know how to finish giving thanks for everything. We cannot continually, how do I say this in a good way? I'll try. We cannot always, I'm going to try again. This proves how hard it is as a Christian, because we can't stop giving thanks. There's that double again. But we're just limited. At a point, we just keep giving God thanks, and there's just always more to give thanks for because of what God does. And that unpredictability within that, and those words that are lacking, that's the surprise of doing the chromatic ending. So let me take you out with the last verse, and thank you for listening to Hymn of the Week. And we'll do it even with a modulation.